Recording again, but can we just go back to the question where, okay, yeah, so how was how was the what was the response like? Were people receptive to the transition to an online movement, and how was turnout?
Well, I think if I was doing this on a larger scale with people of like all ages, it would probably be a lot harder, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
since we're all teenagers or like most people that did it were teenagers, um, like social media is such an integral part of every kind of campaign lately, like even presidential campaigns, everything's digital. So I think it wasn't really all that different for people. Like I was
Right.
worried that it would be more of a stretch, but everyone's so used to doing everything online anyway that it got the message out and people were willing to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, apart from the obvious, like having to transition online, how did things go compared to last year? Like, did you feel like,
Like
although,
because of quarantine, right?
yeah.
Um, Well, this isn't like a super important aspect, but like last year we never really had anyone take like good pictures or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot easier to like we have a lot more record of what happened this year. Um so that's helpful for next year. Um what else? I think I wrote something down. Also social media. Oh yeah, besides that, I was gonna say at Costa, last year it was great and we had a ton of people do it, but it was only really people at Costa. Like
Mm-hmm.
of course people who otherwise knew about Denim Day, which is a lot of people, but people who heard about it from me and only from me, like weren't going to do it if they went to Redondo or they worked with me or whatever because it was a Costa thing kind of. But this year, like my coworkers did it, my friends from Redondo did it, my parents' friends did it, my teachers did it. Like it was way more inclusive, I felt, being online because pretty much anyone can, join from Instagram. But being at Costa felt like a prerequisite last year.
Right. So it felt like it was more of like you had a larger reach.
Right. Because no one felt like they like weren't part of the club. Like everyone has
Yeah.
Instagram, so it was easy.
That's interesting because I mean I think there's something to be said about that. How sorry, what is going on? What
You're good.
um I mean I think there's something to be said about like the inclusivity, right? That I think feels more prevalent now than maybe before because of people can participate everywhere, right? Everyone's at home, so everyone's in the same situation, like you said, where not it doesn't feel like a Costa thing.
Right. It felt
Uh,
like everyone who knows about it thing. And it was like even better that way because like Redondo people then told their Redondo friends, then more people were
mhm.
like people that I've never talked to, which like I'm not the keeper of Denim Day. I would prefer that it's mostly people I don't talk to. But like
Yeah.
last year I had the experience where it was a lot of like me being like, you're my friend, you have to do it, come on. Whereas like
Mhm.
this year it was like people I didn't even know. And like that makes me feel a lot better about it because then I feel like it's not my message, it's just a message that's important in the world and I don't feel like I'm in charge, which is better.
Right. That's amazing. So what does next year look like?
Since I'll be gone, I my sister helped me out with it this year and she's a freshman at Costa.
Mhm.
But she's like a little more reserved when it comes to social things in general. So I'm like, she definitely wants to help out, but she and her best friend Margot Sullivan, if you want me to send you their names, I can. But my sister and her friend are probably going to do it, and then the teachers that have been involved from the beginning, like a few people from the front office, and we even have people like on the board of education that were pretty involved. So they'll continue. Like I have no doubt that it'll still be a thing long after I'm gone.
That's cool. And do you plan on like remaining involved somehow, like virtually, like checking? I mean, obviously, if your sister is going to be,
Well, I think that they're gonna need like some resources anyway. Like,
yeah,
unfortunately, we didn't get to put them up because there was no school. But I had a ton of flyers this year for like events that we were gonna have, or like even just like facts that people should know, or like resources, just little things. And so I sent them all. I already sent them all to a girl at Chadwick because she wanted some resources for next year. And then I'm probably going to pass those along to my sister too, just because it's nice to have, like, everything I did was checked by me and Allie like a million times, like fact check, double fact
Yeah.
check. So it's nice that they don't have to start from scratch like we did, and they already have like all of this research done.
Right. So, so how do you think, I think, so beyond Denim Day, like in activism in general, social activism, how do you feel like it's, how do you feel like it's going to change now after the coronavirus? Do you think it's going to affect the landscape? I mean, I know there's definitely a presence on social media, but do you think that's going to be greater now? Do you think we're going to see more like uh, more people participating from home? How is that going to change?
Well, I definitely won't pretend to be the expert on social activism because this is like my one big project. But I
Right.
will say, I think that out of necessity, it's going to have to be from home, because I think even if we do, find a cure or a vaccine, and even if things like go best case scenario, people are going to be scared to gather in huge groups for a long time, you know?
Right.
And I know
Totally.
even like another activism, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Even like another activism example, like with Pride, that's not going to happen this year.
Hmm.
And like, I'm sure that there's going to be some online version of that, because these are still causes that people care about equally as much from inside their houses. So like at the end of the day, people are going to do what it takes to like make their opinions known, and then also make other people know that they're supported in having those opinions, even though like inside their house there might not be people who are supportive.
Right. So what is, are you, so are you gonna, actually, I just lost my train of thought. I had a great question.
You're good. Thank you. I have one more thing to say about the social activism thing anyway, but
Okay, yeah, go
um
ahead.
well, I was just thinking, I think that the way that we were moving anyway was that more social activism was going to be online than ever.
Hmm.
Um, but I think Corona is only going to extend that, because I think a big reason that there's any online social activism in the first place is because, like, this is kind of a basic example, but going back to the Pride thing, like, you can be a kid who can't go to Pride, parents don't know, unsupportive community for whatever reason, right? But then you can go online and anonymously be accepted by millions of people. So I think we were already heading in that direction anyway, but with coronavirus,
Wow. Yeah.
people being stuck in their houses, um, which might be great environments, but for a lot of people aren't. I think that that just accelerated this whole push into like being able to connect with people all around the globe who feel the way that you feel, even if like, you can't verbalize that at your house.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I never thought of that. Um,
That
wow.
question coming back to you.
No, not really, but I'm glad this is where we've got to, because I mean I think that's really profound. Um,
Oh,
so
don't flatter me.
um, wow, I should have written more questions. I didn't.
You're okay. I mean, I'll think and see. I like wrote some things down when I read your question, so I'll see if I have anything that we haven't brushed up on yet.
Okay. Sorry, let
Oh,
me.
I was gonna say, this is basically what we just talked about with like reaching out for support online, but like Denim Day related. Um, with Denim Day last year, I had people like come, like one or two people come up to me at school and say like, "Oh, I had this experience," or like ask for help. And that was great, but it's different because everyone had to see them come up to me,
Mm-hmm.
and if they weren't my friends or if they talked to me privately, like there was just more like weirdness about it. But since it was online this year, so many more people reached out, because I think like Denim Day is like a beautiful and moving day, but it's also really hard a lot of the time. And I spent like the first, I don't know, I spent like the first half of the day in bed. It's just like a super emotional day for everybody who's ever had an experience that like correlates with it. And so I think people like felt less weird about reaching out because it was all online, because they didn't have to make it known that they were reaching out, you know, and they
Hmm.
didn't have to, like, before a lot of people were reaching out, like early in the morning, I set the precedent that like people had already reached out a ton, because a few had, but I was like,
Yeah.
anyone can like come talk to me, or these people if you need to, and like people already have. So like even though people already had, I made it sound like it was like happening a lot more, so that those people would feel comfortable. And like after that, tons of people asked for help, or if they wanted someone to talk, or even if they were just like, hey, I would like really like to learn more about this, like where can I go, you know. So I think it made it easier to reach out, because on social media, like you're sitting behind a computer and you don't feel as in the spotlight or like as responsible, which obviously sometimes is very bad. But in this situation, it was a good thing, you know?
Definitely. And I feel like it's infinitely more difficult to be public about it because I feel like there's definitely a stigma
Right.
around this kind of thing where people that don't understand feel like people who are really being courageous and like sharing their stories, it's like they want the attention, right?
Right. And that's been definitely an issue at Costa, I think. I mean, every high school, so I'm not singling out Costa, but
Yeah.
I think we're finally getting to a point where it is the norm to believe people. And I had a really like kind of challenging and interesting question or conversation with my friend, um, who was just basically saying like, she was talking about like the line, and obviously this is a bigger conversation that we don't need to get into now, but it was basically just like the line between wanting to believe everyone that reaches out for help, while
Hmm.
also like knowing that people are innocent until proven guilty, and you can't just like, you know, automatically see people as a bad guy because of, you know, a story or a whatever. So like
Right.
that's been really interesting, because I had tons of conversations with people over social media who like had a lot of questions about like they wanted to share their stories, but they didn't want the person who was
Hmm.
part of that story to face a ton of consequences, or they did want that person to face a ton of consequences. And like being online made this all easier, because people could just post and they could be like, I had an experience like that. That's all I want to say about it. I don't want to talk about it. And that's it. Whereas like in person, you'd be pestered, you
Yeah.
know? But they could just be like, here it is. I'm turning off the comments. That's all I want to say,
Hmm.
which like seems like a little thing, but it's a big deal. And I think more
Right.
people than ever like were willing to talk about their own personal experiences on their private Instagrams or whatever on Denim Day, because it was so like, you don't have to run into anyone at school tomorrow, you don't have to pick up anyone's
Hmm.
calls that you don't want to, like you can say something for yourself and then have that be it, you know.
So it seems like, I mean, what you're saying, it sounds like this is a pretty big step for movements like this because people can maintain this level of not anonymity, but like they
No,
can,
it is kind of like
yeah.
people do it without their identity sometimes, but even if they do it with their identities, like you can set very clear boundaries on like who can see it, who can comment, and obviously there's a million ways that you could screenshot or share things, but
Hmm.
I think that people feel safer sitting behind a computer screen, which is like sometimes horrible, but in this case it was really powerful, you know.
Definitely.
And sorry, I totally rambled there for like a good.
No, that was really good. Well, I mean, I think I do have a lot to work with now, and I definitely have my work cut out with me. I'm
Unless there's anything else, and you can always. Sorry, say that again. You cut out.
oh I just you cut out too. I don't well I just
You said you had a lot to work with.
I do, yeah. I have you've given me a lot of good quotes and
Okay.
things to think about. I'm
Well, if you need other stuff, I'm doing nothing most of the time. I have stuff Thursday and Friday, but other than that, whenever.
okay, great. I'm well, thank you so much for talking with me.
Of course.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you for thinking of me.
I'm gonna stop recording.